Hello, everyone. Welcome to Operations Management Unit number 10. In Unit number 10, we're going to be talking about lean operations. I really like this unit. It's fantastic because it really puts together everything that we have learned throughout the whole semester. I think is beautiful. And I think lean in general, it works in so many areas, not only in companies, but also in our own lives. If we manage to lean our lives, we become more efficient. We have more time to do things for personal time. So, anyways, let's talk about this lean operations in companies, not in ourselves. So, first of all, okay, so what is a lean operation? So, here we go a little bit into uh, the sense of the word lean, as in somehow clean, right? We remove the excess, we remove the waste. Like we can say in a person is a lean person and there's a fat person, and the fat person perhaps has unnecessary things in their body, no? So it is exactly the same with the companies. With the companies, we're talking about that operations that have been examined for many times and try to cut down what is wrong. And it's something that you have done throughout your projects, right? Which is you look at the operation, you understand where the problems are, and the more you look into it, the more you find solutions and then try to address them with effective methods. Again, a lean operation means that with few solutions, we can tackle a lot of problems. So in this case, like I said, we have lean operations in terms of um, removing so many unnecessary things, and it can be from simple things from one guy walks from this side to the factory to the other one, so that means we move the machinery to the other side, to so many things in terms of it can be, well, we'll talk about that, how we arrange the boxes, how we categorize inventory, so many times. So uh, when we're talking about lean operations, we automatically talk about just in time. So what is just in time? It's very simple. I think many of you already know this term, which is just in time, which is pulling a certain material just when we need it, right? So this is started mostly by Toyota Production Systems, and we already have seen it in previous units, and it's pretty much Toyota started with this system because initially they were very poor. Not poor, but I mean their financial slack was not too good, and that meant that they cannot purchase too many things for their inventory and just having them standing for a long time. No, when we say okay, we're gonna buy tires for the trucks, Toyota trucks, and we're gonna spend a lot of money, but that money we could be using it in something else because we're gonna start the production only in 3 weeks, for saying something. So this was an approach for them to say, how can we get the tires, produce them quickly, and send them quickly? And that means when I have an order from the consumer that we need a truck, Toyota truck, we quickly produce it and we spend little time in inventory. It's not in inventory. It's when you need it, I give it to you. And I don't produce things that I don't need. So this production was very successful. The other thing that Toyota made different from other companies was, let's say, for example, employees became owners of the mistakes. So whenever there was a mistake, it was fixed on the spot, rather than other companies, what they were doing, once we have the finalized product, we sell it and then comes and returns back, and then we have to figure out where the problem is. So that changed for them because in the end they were producing cars with little or no defects at all, and that of course for them it was fantastic because they didn't have to cover the cost of refund or etc., right? So in this case, when we're talking about, let me fly there. When we're talking about operations management, we're talking about the 7 ways. So what is well, actually there's more than 7, but we'll talk about the other 2 later. So the 7 ways. So we have producing more than we should. Why? Unless perhaps you want to have an excess inventory for, let's say, for emergency cases, but it shouldn't be. If we have A lean production system, that means we forecast exactly how much it should be, and we are never short, we never exceed. Q's, waiting time. No, everything is on the dot. I receive material, I produce the material. It's not wasted, it's stored in storage for 1 week, for 1 day. No, we receive, we produce, we send. That's it. End of the story, so that we can produce more, right? Transportation, the same thing, moving the material, right? How can we, in less movements, move all the material and produce, right? So in this case, we even calculate and count the number of movements. It could be from when we design, for example, the job of a person, in how many moves he moved the material. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 movements. I analyze, I look at the work line, and then I say, how can I do it in 3? 1, 2, 3. So in this case, again, this is precisely the transportation that is a waste if we don't manage it. Inventory, like I said, unnecessary raw material or work in progress or finished goods. We don't want inventory. We want to have just what we want to sell, and that's it. We produce what we need to sell, and that's it. That's all. Dell is a very good example of this. Dell, he was it's a company of computers that initially they started more focusing on business to business rather than business to consumer. Now, of course, they do business to consumer more, but they produce computers based on what the consumer wants and the consumer needs, and that's it. And they only produce the computers that are requested, no more than that. And that has been their business model for a long time. Of course, other companies already doing the same thing, but Dell is the pioneer, the first mover. And the same thing with transportation and motion. The both work together. Like motion in terms of the person moving, transportation if a certain material has to move from a certain place or another, how long it takes, why it's supposed to move, etc. Over processing, again, we have, let's say for example, we have an end product and we check it 5 times. Why? Maybe because of the quality? No. Maybe you say, if we check it 5 times, we can ensure better quality of the product. No, then why don't you set a puka yoke? And that's simple as that. We ensure that by testing once, it's better than 5 times because it's more effective. And then 7 waste is also defective products. So in this case, that's why I said Toyota said we don't have returns, warranty, rework, because we will produce it well at the first time, like your projects. Sometimes you waste a lot of time because you don't do it with effective quality, and then of course I return it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and that ends in two weeks delay, right? We have, here we have how can we produce lean, right? So first of all, sort and segregate. In this case, we need to sort which processes should be where, which ones we can make them a continuous line, which ones should be processed in different ways, in different methods, as we have seen, for example, in the case of McDonald's, right? We know which hamburgers can be done in this line, which hamburgers need this material, etc. In this case, we have the simplify and the straighten. How can we make just one line, right? Simple, that work everything in a line. We have the shine and the sweep, eliminate areas of dirt, contamination, clutter. You wouldn't believe this, but I think say why we need to clean. Yeah, sounds ridiculous, I know. But when we're talking about the manufacturing facilities or any kind of facilities, either they produce hazards or somehow mobility is reduced. And when mobility is reduced, that means time. You may say, 1 minute. Yeah, but maybe 1 minute, it represents a lot. So if you have to go around the boxes or the warehouse is not planned properly, then of course it's dirty. No, we don't say dirty, right? And then again, it's up to the products. No, some products really need some hygiene, etc. But that's another thing. Standardization, again, everything must look exactly the same. For that, we must have a method. If we have a method, if we have equipment that makes it happen, then it's fantastic. And then sustain and self-discipline, which means continuously improving the quality. meaning that we're never happy with the final product. We're always finding ways to improve it, and that one together goes with the Kaizen. I think I have it somewhere there. Well, it's somewhere there. Somewhere we're gonna find it now. So anyways, Kaizen. Kaizen is the Japanese word for continuous improvement, right? So very good. So where I was, um, yeah. Then we have two more S's, which is the safety, which of course, I'm going to put you a link to one documentary, and I think it's very interesting because you will see how, for example, for some Asian company, safety is not that relevant as compared to American, because regulation is, of course, much more different. But I mean, it's also part of the lane. I'm going to show you that an American Factory is the name. You can search for it on Netflix. And of course, support and maintenance, which is, again, if we have the machinery always performing in the best way, that means we don't need to fix it. There's little breakdowns, there's little stoppage already into the production. That's fantastic. So in this case, like I said, we are looking at firstly removing variability, standardization. If we have a process of doing everything exactly in the same way, variability is decreased, and that means that there's less defects, less errors, and less mistakes. And for that matter, we have to look at the throughput, which is the rate which units move through a process. So we have to think of the manufacturing cycle time, how long it takes from point A to point C to be finalized a product, right? Because in this case, we measure the movements, the lead and the lag time, and then that tells us what we should do in order to increase the productivity. So in this case, we're talking about the pool system, and it's again the just-in-time is exactly the same thing. We just produce as we need it. And if we know the manufacturing cycle time, we can use a pool system because sales or marketing is requiring X amount of units by X time, right? Or the distributor needs X amounts of units by X time. Because we know the manufacturing cycle time and the throughput, then we can say, yes, we can be ready, and yes, we can have it, or not, we cannot, and we need more resources, and we need to increase the productivity. Very good. So this one already talk about the just in time. So just in time, how it happens through also by the suppliers. When we have supplier partnerships, when we have different suppliers, if we have a good agreement with them, that means they can move the material whenever we need them. We have agreements, activities, probably we have special arrangements for them to put the materials at a certain time. And the same thing with consignment inventory, which is another part of it, which is we don't pay until we use it, until we finish, until we sell it. That again, this is more about financial leanness than rather operational, but it's mentioned in here. So anyways. So concerns of suppliers in supplier partnership. So we have we have problems with suppliers all the time for many reasons. So what can we do in order for us to have a more linear approach? Is we have different suppliers and we put them into competition. You don't produce, I'll shift to that supplier, or I will produce priorities to certain suppliers that can really supply me on time. We can have good scheduling. We need to coordinate the schedules well. Again, the lead time, we need to understand our throughput process to let the supplier know when we need the things and how they need to be on time. We also need to look at the quality of the supplier's items, the raw materials, because sometimes that can make us, maybe our process of manufacturing is fantastic, it has zero mistakes, but the material is not of good quality, and that makes us to rework, right? And then also we need to look at lot sizes, which is, we need to understand that we need to define with the supplier whether we want small lot sizes or big lot sizes, big quantity, big quantity because I have a place to keep it, or low quantity because I will be producing more just in time because I don't have any place to do it. So we have to discuss that with suppliers. So we talk about, again, the lean layout. In this case, lean layout, we're talking about measuring. This is mostly about measuring and observation. We observe the processes, how they are carried out, what are the common issues, where we can design the layout in different to be most efficient. But again, we have to be very careful because sometimes it's about the layout, sometimes it's about the process itself, so we have to be very careful with that. Okay, lean inventory, I already talked about that earlier before, which is the little inventory we have, the leaner the operation it is. Simple as that. Okay, so we have, again, lean scheduling. So in this case, lean scheduling means having perfect timings. That means we time absolutely everything, and everything has a measurement, and we has an improvement, a constant improvement. And then of course we are looking at the levels of production. So in this case, for example, there's a Japanese term for that, which is that they use some cards and they use the Kanban. Now the Kanban is very obsolete, to be very honest, because it is obsolete, and it's not obsolete because, I mean, the level production schedules used to monitor the performance of the different departments. Let's say, for example, part of the production A was done in here, and I'm almost at the 90% of my production, so I'm going to pass all the products to you tomorrow. And then in the next section, yes, but I cannot produce them right now because I am only at 50% of the production of the following part of the process. So in this case, they use these cards to see where you are and where I am, and how can flow the products in a more efficient way, no? So but nowadays this Kanban is obsolete because it's done through computers. It's much easier right now. The operation is wholly monitored by the computers, the ERPs, etc. And then of course this Kanban itself, the Kanban ideology exists. The way that is done nowadays is way more modern. Simple as it. So in this case, like I said, we have in this lean systems, we're talking about Kaizen, which you see, it was here, it was somewhere here. The Kaizen just looks mostly at continuous improvement. We are never happy with what we do. The process can always improve. The process can always be better. And then, of course, we have Kaizen events. So in this case, we have the members of a work cell or a team. They meet to develop the improvement. They say, guys, okay, something's not working with this process. Something is not working well. How can we improve it? So there's a discussion. That's something that you have done in your projects, because it's like that. You discuss what can be done. That precisely is a Kaizen event. So now, what happens in lean organizations? So in lean organizations, when you adopt the philosophy of lean, it is not just a process, it's a whole mindset. The whole company has to change different button to say, now we're gonna be the best ones. And that's precisely what happens at Toyota, which is different mindset of being the best car producing in the world, no? So in this case, like I said, respect and develop employees by improving the job design. So we ask employees how the work can be better. We empower them. We tell them, you are operating every day, day to day, so tell me what can be done better, right? So in this case, we also give them more responsibilities, give them more power, so that they can really be involved into the final product. At the same time, we give them flexibility in terms of their work, in terms of the work arrangements, right? We build processes that destroy variability. That means, again, if we have a polka yoke where the process, let's say, for example, the lever and, I don't know, the turn and the bolts can only go in this way. There's no variability. You're gonna put it in the other way, turn around, flip, because only this bolt will fit in here. Those kind of designer processes destroy variability. and it's part of studying the process itself. We develop collaborative partnerships. Again, we talk with suppliers. We make sure that their quality is optimal all the time and that they deliver exactly when I need it, because that is the beauty of the just in time. When I need it, at the time I need it, with the quality I need it. And of course, like I said, eliminate waste. What is unnecessary? What doesn't create value? We have to remove it. We have to change it. And this is something that is very difficult. For example, the case of IKEA. IKEA has removed, it's very lean. They don't say it out loud, we are a lean company. But many of their processes are like that. That is precisely how the value of their products is quality at a cheaper rate, not because of the products are bad. It's because they have saved, for example, they have removed the waste in terms of logistics and transportation. Everything fits in a box rather than a sofa that uses one whole container, right? So again, in this case, companies are not aware of leanness, and they don't know how to do it. Some people are smart enough to hire consultants in lean, Six Sigma, X belt, black belt. There's a couple belts, and then of course they get advice on how they can become lean. But again, we don't need experts. We know our operation. We can do it. So this is part of lean, and that's it. And then of course lean services, which is even more complex because of the demand. The demand is variable, but again, if we organize the processes, if we standardize them, if we make sure that everything runs like a clockwork, then should be no problem, right? Very good. So that's it for today. Thank you so much. If you have any questions or any doubts, please let me know. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.